Hi, welcome to Digital Dialogs, your compact conversations on the future of technology. My name is Renee from Reply, and today we're going to talk about empowering human-robot interaction from social robots to humanoid robotics. What a title! But for this title, I'm also very happy to have a special expert guest today, Lucrezia Grassi. Ciao, Lucrezia. Come
Ciao, ciao.
stai?
Bene, grazie. I'm very happy to be here and participate to your podcast.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. Before we get started, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, about your research, education, and the work you're doing right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. My background is in computer engineering, and my master is in robotics engineering. Then I did a PhD in robotics, and now I'm a researcher in robotics, of course, at the RISE lab at the University of Genoa with Professor Antonio Sgorbissa. And RISE stands for Robots and Intelligent System for Citizens and the Environment. And in our lab, we have many robots. We do many different things from social robotics, which what I will talk about today, to drones and quadruped robots like Spot from Boston Dynamics, Go One from Uni3. And what I work with is mainly social robots, humanoid robots, and I make them talk, let's say, because I deal with conversation, so human-robot interaction, and this is what I like most.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And I've like for the folks you cannot see the video here because you're listening to the audio podcast, but in the background with Lucrezia, we also have some robots actually standing behind her. There's a Christmas tree on one side, and then the next side you have a bunch of robotic systems that are also Christmas decorated. So this is pretty
Exactly.
awesome. So you can imagine we're recording this in the Advent time, it's Advent time now. So we're recording this during the Advent time here. And yeah, awesome stuff, Lucrezia, what you're doing. And I heard a lot of good stuff also from some of my colleagues. And so let's dive into
Thank
this,
you.
what you're doing here. Your research, like you said, focuses really heavily on social robotics and on the human-robot interaction, right?
Yeah.
On the human-machine interaction, if you will. And could you share how you work in the race project RAISE
Yeah.
is enhancing robotics agility and that you can engage in multi-party interaction, how these systems are being integrated across different settings like also schools, hospitals, museums, and yeah, tell us a little bit about that cool project.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Everything started some years ago, like almost 5 years ago. And during my master thesis, I started working on this system that was initially called Caresses. It was a European project to make robots autonomously interact with the humans and adapt to the culture of individuals. So I started working on this, and during my PhD, the system became a CAIR system, which is a CAIR, that stands for Culture Aware Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. And this is a cloud system that makes robots autonomously able to interact with humans, adapting to the diversities between individuals. So not only culture, we extended this concept of diversity awareness to many other characteristics like background, physical problems, mental problems, the context, let's say, of the interaction. And we also focused on multi-party interaction, so not only one-to-one classic interaction, but group scenarios, because we saw that many times robots have to face scenarios where there are many people, for example, at fairs or public environments, also in banks or ports, schools, hospitals, lots of them, almost any of them. So this system is able to manage these kinds of scenarios. And we tested it in many contexts, such as schools, with groups of children in a middle school here in Genoa, to see how the system is able to balance the participation of individuals, so address specific people through their names by recognizing their voice, And we also tested the system in hospitals, at the Santa Corona Hospital here in Genoa. Then we will test it at the San Martino Hospital with the people with the delirium, and also with the people with apathy at home.
Mhm.
And this is part of many different projects, not only the RAISE project. In the RAISE project, in particular, we are let's say working on Spoke 2 and Spoke 4, because RAISE is composed of different spokes, which are different areas of application of robotics and artificial intelligence. In particular, Spoke 2 is personal and remote healthcare. So we are using robots to assist doctors in hospitals or
Mhm.
care homes, and also people at home. Because the main reason to use social robots is to, let's say, support people that are lonely, and support healthcare workers in their work. So basically, as we know, there are not many people available in hospitals that can follow all the people, all the patients. Okay, because there is not so much time. So robots can be used for that, to assist, to be there 24 hours a day in the people's room, to take care of them, verbal interacting and keeping company. So this is what we do in Spoke 2, and we already tested it Santa Corona Hospital with paraplegic individuals.
Mhm.
And tomorrow we will start a trial with people at home. So I will bring the Now robot, which is now here with me because I tested it. I prepared it for tomorrow. And we will start this. We will leave him alone for at least 7 days with this first participant who lives in Celle Ligure. Uh, and I will not be there. So I will come home, and he will be there alone, far from me. So I hope that everything goes well, and everything is autonomous. So the robot will be connected to a cloud server in our lab, and it will do everything alone. And of course, this has been adapted. The robot knows that it is interacting with a person with paraplegia, so it will not hopefully generate sentences that are that can hurt the person. Okay. In the Spoke 4 of RAISE, which is smart and sustainable ports, we are also using the system in a totally different area, so no hospital, care
Mhm.
homes, etc., but at the maritime station, where people come to do the check-in, to go in the cruise ship. So they leave for cruise. They are very happy and excited to go aboard, and they are not very interested in talking with a robot in that moment, because they are in a rush and they want to go and start their cruise. But our objective is to catch their attention with the robot and interact them, but also try to convince them to compile a questionnaire for the user satisfaction of their experience in the maritime station, because they asked us to use the robot for this, because maybe it can be more encouraging than some QR code in some cardboard. Okay, so this is what we do in the RAISE project. And there are also other projects in which we use the system outside RAISE, because the system was not built inside the RAISE project. It was built before, and then we are only using it in this project in different applications, because the system can be personalized with different features. And I will say later that the system also uses LLMs, but large language models, of course, because now everyone has to use them. We have to adapt to this new powerful tool that we have, but it can also work without, because until last year and a half, we weren't using LLMs, but we were using our own system, totally built from us, based on an ontology, so a knowledge base with the
Mhm.
topics for conversation, and also sentences that are handwritten. So of course this has limitations, because you cannot cover all the possible topics in the world. You cannot put infinite sentences handwritten, but it works. I mean, this has been tested in care homes and in schools without LLMs. and also at the Santa Corona Hospital, we were not using LLMs.
Yeah.
We will use them from tomorrow for the new trial, because of course, we upgraded the system in the last months, and we will see how it goes. Yeah, so
That's quite exciting, and the robot will also come like a Christmas gift because you wrapped it nicely back there. What I see, so
exactly.
that's awesome, and I'm pretty sure the person will appreciate that, and we'll
Yeah,
have
the
some good
person
time.
is very, very excited. Yes,
Are you
he's
also
writing
going to
to
give them
me.
like a little like a handsheet, the do's and the don'ts, like be nice to our
Uh,
robot friend?
no. Actually, the person is free to say, to do whatever he likes, because in this case, it's a man, and there are no rules, because the conversation is very free. You can talk about whatever you like, and the robot will try to cover only some topics that we put in the knowledge base, and the topics in this case are related to maybe hospital, his experience in the hospital, the problems that are related to his condition. The robot will not talk about some sports that require maybe to run, to walk. So everything has been studied, also with the help of doctors, because
Mhm.
every time we apply the system somewhere, we talk with the experts in that field to know what is the best for the patients, for the final user. We ask for their approval, for their help, always. Yes. And
Awesome.
we also use the system in the wild, let's say. So recently we went to the Maker Faire in Rome, and there has been also the Festival della Scienza here in Genoa.
Hmm.
And when there are these kinds of events, we always bring our robots,
Oh, yeah.
Pepper or Now, and they are just there to talk with the people about whatever they want. So, and they performed well. They didn't have any problem. Neither at the festival or the Maker Faire, so we are very happy.
That's great. It's like real world A/B testing in the
Yeah,
field, and
yeah,
oh, that's also great about these events, right? You get a good occasion to see them.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. We understand what people want, what they want to talk about, what they expect from the robot. With Pepper, we can also use the tablet, because now we have the most recent version with the Android
Mhm.
based operating system.
Yeah,
And it's very nice because it can be programmed like an Android smartphone. So you can have this user interface in the tablet that can be used with the buttons, and so people
nice.
can interact also physically with the robot, not just
Yeah.
verbally.
I think that's great. Like you're saying, I mean, the verbal conversation as the interaction is important, but also providing other modalities of input
Yeah.
is,
Yeah,
especially,
also for people that maybe
yeah,
cannot hear well, they can
yeah,
read what the robot is saying.
yeah,
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 or
yeah.
they can type.
Obviously you think all about the accessibility there, in that regards when you're working in that field, and
Yeah.
it's great, and I love to hear that. When we talk about the social robotics, it's oftentimes a balancing act between the interaction between a human and a robot.
Hmm.
And could you talk a little bit more? You already talked a little bit about it, but maybe we can dive a little bit deeper into what are some of the challenges, but also advancements that you encountered while developing your conversational system. You
Yeah.
mentioned you first used your custom NLP, now based on LLMs and so on. So maybe we talk a little bit about that, particular when it also comes about the aspect of being like diversity aware, and adaptable to different social, but also cultural environments, right? It's a big
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. It's a big challenge, and as I said, we started with the cultural awareness, and then now we are having more a big picture of diversities between individuals, and it's very hard to adapt the conversation to different people, because it depends on many different aspects, not just on the person itself, but on the context, the background of the person, the history of the conversation. So we have to keep all these things into account when the robot generates a reply. And as I said, I think there is a distinction that should be made, like a pre-LLM phase and a post-LLM phase for
It's
conversational
true.
systems. Because
Oh, yeah.
pre-LLM, the systems were handmade, let's say. Okay, so you had 100% security of what the robot would have replied to the person, because it's if else. So if the person says this, the robot will reply exactly this because I wrote this. So I know. And then after the LLMs, when we integrated these powerful instruments in the system, there is this unpredictability, because you never know 100% what the
Yeah.
robot will say. Actually, a lot less of 100%, because every sentence is different,
Mhm.
and I don't know what to expect. I talk all days with these robots, and I'm enjoying this very much, because it's like almost like talking to a person that you don't know what is going to reply. So what we are trying to do now is to try and have as much control as we can on these models. So we are using in particular OpenAI models, so
Yeah.
GPT 4.0 in this moment. But of course, when they release new models, we test them and then we update them in the system. So we try to use always the latest one.
Hmm.
Um, and as you may know, they already have their own filters
Yes.
on the generated content, so they
Yep.
are not able to produce offensive sentences. But what we are doing is introducing another level of control as much as we can in the prompt. So we are working on the prompt engineering. We did lots of tests. I'm doing tests every day, because if I realize that maybe the robot replies in a way that I don't really like to some sentences, I change the prompt. So I changed it lots of times. And what we do is we try to provide many information in the prompt, and we call these dialogue nuances. They are informations about many aspects, so diversity aspects, so mental problem, health problems, nationality of the person, background, also maybe the name of the person, etc. Then
Yeah.
we have information about the place, information about the time, so the season of the year, the fact that maybe it's almost Christmas. So all this information about context. And then we also try to control the tone of the generated sentences.
Hmm.
So maybe we don't want aggressive tones, but we want kind tones or humorous tones. And all of this is to try and prevent the model to generate insensitive sentences. So, for example, asking a person with paraplegia, "Do you like going for a walk?" And this is
Yeah.
an example, because if you don't say to the model that the person cannot walk, asking a person if
Oh,
they
yeah.
like to go for a walk is not offensive generally, but it depends on the person.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
this is the approach that we are using right now. Of course, there is also the possibility of fine tuning the models to address maybe some particular scenario.
Uh-huh.
But we are currently not doing this because personally, I think that these models are so powerful, trained on so many data, that the difference that my training could do is very minimal. And so working on the prompt in this case is enough. We
Yep.
are seeing that it's fine. I mean,
Yep.
so we will see it in the next trials with these paraplegic individuals, and maybe I will tell you how they will perform.
Definitely, definitely. We need to get you back on the podcast in a couple of months or so to talk about the progress, because this is an exciting project. But I also love what you're saying is, fine tuning is a cool thing, and it's quite involved, obviously. But it might not be needed for lots of scenarios where you can do some good prompt engineering, right,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
provide
yeah.
good meta prompts, kind of.
Mhm.
That instruct the system, and yeah, that's also what we noticed when we did this with Ameca, the humanoid robot head. We did a kind of integration with an SAP system, which is not as cool and as innovative as what you're doing there, and providing true value to elderly people, or kind of people that have a certain a certain special need. But we connected Amica with SAP Service Cloud. Long story short, what I'm trying to say is we also have been using GPT-4o Mini in that case, and the stuff you can already provide as instructions in the prompt are really most of the time very much sufficient.
Yeah,
Also with the examples and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I noticed that as the models are upgraded, they give always more importance to the prompt that you provide.
Yeah.
Because with the GPT, I remember that with the GPT 3.5 Turbo, the things that I put in the prompt were not always respected, taken into account. But now with GPT 4.0, I think that yeah, it understands what you want and it respects your guidelines. Yeah.
Yep, I think so as well. We notice this quite a bit, and also the kind of classification, right? If you need to analyze the human speech and also classify what they're saying into action items, basically for function calling and these kind of things, it does a wonderful job with 4 Mini for sure.
Yeah,
And well, go ahead.
we use the models not just to generate the sentences, but also to understand other things like the topic which the person is talking about. So kind of doing a match between the
Yeah,
topics in the ontology and the user sentence, and also to understand the sentiment of the person, the tone of the user
yep.
sentence. So yeah, it works pretty well.
Yeah, it's like it actually replaces many different models you had to use back in the days. It's like now you
Yes.
can do so much stuff just with a language model.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. In fact, another thing that we did that we are not always using because it's an additional feature that is it's there. If you want to use it, you can use it. Otherwise, we're not using it just because we pay also for that. It's grounding the conversation on what the robot sees. So the robot can capture pictures, and then we use Microsoft Azure services for
uh-huh.
dense captioning. So we get a description of everything that's inside the picture, and we provide the list of these descriptions to GPT.
Yeah,
So that the model knows also what the robot is seeing, and it can ground. We use the term ground
yeah.
the generated sentence
Mhm.
also on the visual information. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very important aspect you're saying. Like also the vision capabilities we get in these multi-model language models these days, it's
Mm-mm.
incredible. Like you're saying, right? You can get a really good detailed description of a scenery. And back in the days, you would have to train like a huge computer vision model, and now we have all of this with vision transformers built in, and it's just going to get further and further. What we're seeing with these multi-model models, obviously with GPT-4o, we're just getting a glimpse of what they actually have shown at the spring update, right? Where as users or via the API, we don't get the full model yet, but if it trained with joint embeddings, also with the phonetic stuff inside of it, and not using different models for speech to text and text to speech, but having it all built into one model, we're already seeing the huge progress in terms of latency, but also
Yeah.
more. I mean, there's already kind of an emotional component built into this, right? And
Yeah.
the
And
challenge,
as regards to the latency, I think
yeah,
that the difference is very noticeable because when I started using the APIs, it
yeah,
would take like 10 seconds maybe to generate a sentence. In fact, we also had this kind of method to reduce the latency
uh-huh.
that we used a sentence to take time while the model was generating the response. Like,
Clever.
let me think. I'm still thinking, these kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
sure, sure.
Now we don't need them anymore because the
There
model
we
just
go.
takes 1 or 2 seconds to generate the response. So
Yeah,
it's acceptable. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm still waiting for the final day once Amazon actually switches the Echo to the Alexa, basically to have a language model behind it to actually be smart and provide useful content. But I think it might be still a little bit too expensive for them to release it on scale. But yeah,
Mm.
I fully agree. I mean, we're now like. I'm just saying that because I fully see that as yourself, right? We're seeing now response times which are really real time conversations,
Yeah.
and yeah, super impressive stuff. But I had another question for you, and in terms of looking further ahead, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, we will see also these multi-agent systems. We are seeing these multi-model models, which can now we get audio to audio built in. We have computer vision. We will get videos. We get 3D models. At some point, we might also get robotic instructions and what have you, right, out of these models directly. We'll see. But let's talk a little bit more about the social aspect of it and the role as a social assistant, which you already alluded to in the beginning, right? You're using this
Mhm.
in these kind of settings, also hospitals and elderly care homes and so on. And so I think it's also an important aspect. And maybe just a little trivia. I'm sorry for my long-winded question, but I'm also doing
Oh,
sometimes a little bit of TikTok videos, like not like professional or anything, but it's just enjoying it sometimes to do some content creation. That's also why I'm doing a podcast, right? But anyhow, I did a video of when we had Amika here for this event. I also had it at my home, and my kids were also using it. And I recorded a video of Amika interacting like the humanoid robot. Didn't film my
okay.
kids, but just the robot.
Mhm.
And what was cool is like there's so many folks that wrote comments on it. The weird part is like a lot of people are scared about it. Some
I
just want
know.
to simply abuse a robot, and others are really excited for it. And some also see that like I think what we are both are seeing, or a lot of folks are seeing, is like these robotic systems are also a very important aspect. I think is for elderly care, preventing loneliness, supporting
Mhm.
special needs,
Yeah, exactly.
also helping kids with autism,
Yeah,
and in general, improving healthcare environments, right? Although lots of
that's really
people
what
are
we
scared
do.
about these robots and they think about the Terminator scenario all the time, which is wrong, right? But
Yeah.
rather looking at the benefits, and a lot of folks are also seeing that, right? That would be great to have it in an elderly care home when people can simply talk to that person and so on.
Exactly. I still, I think that people still need to adapt to this change that is happening in this period of our life of the history. It's like I think it's like the smartphone. Yeah, because now
Yeah,
we are used to a smartphone. It's a technology that we accept. While the robot, we are still seeing the robot as something scary, as you said. But for me, robots are really like a smartphone, like a TV. In fact, I have them here in my house, and I
yeah,
talk with them. Then I switch them off when I want. I switch them on. So yeah, they can be a very precious instrument for different needs, like maybe combating loneliness in hospitals, care homes, people that are lonely at home, not to replace people.
exactly,
Because this is what people ask me, oh, you want to replace humans
exactly.
with
No,
robots? No, we don't want to
yeah,
replace humans. We just want
that's
to provide robots as an instrument, as a help.
yeah,
Yeah, if you don't have the possibility of having a human beside maybe a person in a hospital all day, you can put the robot there, and the
yeah,
robot is there if the person wants to talk. If there is a person available, of course, the person will talk, hopefully, to the
yeah,
person, because a person is better than a robot, and it will
exactly.
always be, I think.
Yeah,
But robots can have other advantages with respect to some humans, maybe, because they never get angry. They are always with the same mood. If you want them to be happy, they are always happy. They will listen to you, even if you reply 10 times the same thing.
exactly.
They will
Right.
answer with the same tone.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in special cases like people with maybe Alzheimer or
Mhm.
dementia or delirium or some conditions, apathy also, we are working with people with apathy. We will start trials next year. And in these cases, we think that robots can really, really help these people. They can provide, I don't know, reminders to take medications, or they can, in the San Martino Hospital, in the trials that we will start very
Mhm.
briefly with people with the delirium in the geriatric wards, the robot will, for example, do periodic interventions. Let's say at 3 in the afternoon, the robot will talk about family. So the person
Uh-huh.
will have to keep itself active, themselves active, and remember things. So maybe talk about specific topics, and we think that this will help them to be active, to keep their brains active, and this can help with these kinds of problems with the
Yeah.
delirium, for example.
Yeah. To,
Uh,
to,
Also with people with children with autism,
Hmm.
we already noticed how the difference between the interaction with people and with robots for these children. Because when I did the experiments at school, it happened that in some groups of children there was maybe someone with autism, and
Hmm.
the teacher warned me, and they said like, oh, maybe he will not talk because usually doesn't express himself themselves. And what I noticed is that with the robot, they talked normally, like they shared things that they never shared with their
Wow.
teachers. And so I was very happy, and this is a clear sign, I think, that robots should be used in these cases. Because what we notice is that the robots do not make the children feel judged. Okay, yeah, because they see the robot as a maybe as an object, not as a person that is trying to judge them negatively. So they feel more free to express what they want, I think.
Yes, I think so as well. There's not this kind of social barrier, maybe, that they feel ashamed when they talk about a certain topic. That might be a reason.
Yeah.
Um, but I also fully see the point, right? And also, in particular, when we think about certain like autism or other, neurodiversities, that basically there's also different perception, right? Which we might not be able to understand normally if you don't have such a condition. Like maybe they perceive also the robot in a different way. It's more like closer to it, or I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
definitely an interesting aspect, but I like the approach. Also, what you're saying, like this is not going to replace humans at all. Not at all. Human in the loop is the most important aspect of the work we're doing, and that's also part of course, using these responsibly. We want to do it for the sake of the good of humanity in the end, and this is all about scaling and providing help for people because people need to realize we're living. I know you're from like you're at the University of Genoa, right, in Italy, and so I'm in
Mhm.
Germany, right. Like both countries have a huge problem with the growing age of the workforce as well, right?
Yeah,
And what we're seeing is there's simply not enough folks that can do these jobs, and
exactly.
so bringing in these kind of robotic systems in the social robotics field, but also if we think about diagnosis and also therapy is in healthcare in general. There's so much
Mhm.
things that are happening at the moment in the field of machine learning. It's incredible, and
Yes.
this is going to help many people. And in the end, these AI models might be able to also provide us personalized medicine, right? We see it with the Nobel Prize that went to in the end to the AlphaFold model, right, for protein synthesis and that kind of stuff, because it's
Mhm.
such a novel approach, and we couldn't do it without the help of AI. And that's I think
I
we need
think
to look at
I
it.
would trust more an AI, maybe something than a human in some
Yeah,
cases. Yeah.
yeah. Honestly, when I would be in an elderly home, I would prefer to have a robot take care of me. Honestly, because I would
Yeah,
otherwise
because
maybe feel
you don't.
ashamed.
Yeah, exactly. You don't feel like yeah, maybe some people feel like a burden to other people when
Yeah,
they are old.
exactly. Yeah,
Instead, with a robot, you can't feel a burden because the robot is there for you, and its only task to take care of you. So I
exactly.
think that in the future we will see robots in many places, and it's positive. I think it's positive because for many tasks, maybe repetitive tasks, time
Hmm.
consuming tasks, robots can do them, while humans can maybe focus on other areas more with more creativity or critical thinking, so higher tasks.
Hmm.
No, I don't know how to say that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's a beautiful closing word because we have to get to the end of the show here. We're
Yeah,
getting to
sorry.
the end of the show.
I
Although
talk I talk
although
too
it's
much.
no, it's great, Lucrezia. I love it. It's probably one of the longest episodes recorded, and that speaks a lot because it's a very good conversation, and I appreciate all the insights that you're sharing and the work you're
Thank
doing together with your colleagues at the University of Geneva is really impactful, and I think it's very much important the work you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing all about it today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And thanks everyone for joining us for Digital Dialogues, your compact conversations on the future of tech. Watch our blog, follow our social media, and subscribe to our Reply podcast channel to not miss the next episodes. And of course, you can always listen to the previous and the upcoming episodes on reply.com. And there might also be one where we talked about a tool with Dan Fitzpatrick called Focus Buddy, which is used for treating autism, right? So very much also related to today's episode. So take a look there. And until then, take care and see you soon. Bye-bye.